Great, thank you. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this workshop meeting for the Hartford Public Schools Board of Education. My name is Kim Oliver. I am a board member. This evening with me, we have a few of our other board members, including Yvette Bello, Reverend AJ Johnson, and also Shante Brody. We are going to discuss at this workshop today the Office of Talent Management, Hiring, Recruiting, and Retention Update. And with that, we can start the presentation, and Superintendent and also Dr. Curtis, if there are some natural places to take a break and ask questions, obviously feel free to do that. If it is that we need to wait to the end, that's fine as well. So we're a little flexible here. Also, I see my colleague, Mr. Walker, also joining board member as well. So with that, Superintendent, I turn it over to you, and also Dr. Curtis. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. So glad to see you all. I will turn it over to Dr. Curtis shortly, but I do want to just kind of frame the presentation. We have Dr. Curtis with us, Connie Nieves, Executive Director of Human Resources, Nancy Williams, Senior Talent Recruiter, and the team will be sharing the current state of talent in Hartford Public Schools, and for some objectives, just a data dive, if you will, into some of the current and also the historical trends on retention and vacancies. There's going to be an overview of recruitment strategies, and then more current information, given that I believe already there was a session with staff at a school this evening relevant to our employee engagement survey that was conducted in the fall, that will set the foundation for some of our retention strategies, and also what some of the next steps in that work are. And then while we are going to review school-based trends to provide just a little more context on our district level retention status, it's not going to be a deep dive into classroom by classroom specific building level analysis. It is going to be comparative data across schools. So I want to also acknowledge and thank those of you that submitted questions in advance of the meeting tonight. Specifically, there's interest in our diversity efforts to recruit and retain our educators of color. And so the team will also spend some time addressing that in tonight's presentation. So I'm going to tag in Dr. Curtis to take us forward in the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez. So here's our agenda. We're going to spend, like the superintendent said, a little bit of time looking at data, current and historical trends around hiring, retention, attrition. Then we're going to look at our recruitment strategies for looking into the 23-24 hiring season, some of these practices we're using right now. And then we're also going to look at an employee engagement survey. We're going to talk about some of the results that we've highlighted and our action plan for moving forward with those results. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as part of the strategic plan for the district, the Office of Talent Management supports strategies for skillful staff and effective operations. Specifically, OTM is focused on continually attracting, hiring, supporting, and retaining the best educators, leaders, and staff. We can go to the next slide. We're going to jump right into the data, right? We want to really get you guys looking at the numbers that we consider when we do this work. So I will review a few slides that show data related to previous and current hiring trends. And although there continue to be separations across all schools in the district, this slide shows the 5 schools with the highest rates of attrition versus the schools with the highest rates of retention. So just comparing our outliers on both ends. We want to note that the profiles of these schools are very different, and staffing schools is not a one-size-fits-all. That's important to note. Each school has its own profile, which is what OTM uses to help recruit and staff schools. We want to make sure that we're recruiting and hiring for fit. We do know that when you hire for fit, that is one way to address retention. So when considering these schools, here are a few things that we know to be true. So when we look at our schools with the highest rates of attrition, we know a school like Capital Prep does not have a standard calendar. So they have a very unique calendar, a year-round calendar. So when recruiting teachers who are thinking about more traditional experience in teaching, we have to sell Capital Prep a little differently. We know that Hartford Public High School has had some leadership changes over time. We know that there's literature out there that suggests, people don't leave jobs, they leave leaders. And then we know that Burr had a structural change. It went from being a K-8 to just a middle school. So that structure in and of itself has implications on staffing. And then we want to make sure that we recognize that the larger schools, just in general, have challenges, have more of a challenge staffing. So the more staff members you have, the more challenging it is to keep your school staff, as opposed to a smaller school. So then when we look at our schools that have higher rates of retention of their staff, we know that there has been, like, for some of these schools, continuity in leadership, right? So when there's not a leadership change year over year, that helps to retain staff. And then the majority of these schools are magnet schools, although MLK is a very strong neighborhood school, but there's something to be said about staffing magnet schools versus neighborhood schools. So just to give you a highlight on our outliers, and then of course there are schools that range, there's a large range in between our outliers. We can go to our next slide. So when we think about separations in total hires, so for this school year to date, we've had 224 separations, and then we've had 337 total hires. And we just wanted to highlight the positions that we have the most openings for, that we hire the most for, right? So of course, elementary teachers is right up there, but we also, that's a position that we have a lot of, right? So we have way more elementary teachers than we have high school math teachers, right? So that is a position that we consistently over time have openings in. And so these, for OTM, these are positions that we're consistently recruiting for and keeping our eye on. You can go to the next slide. So on average, 11% of elementary and middle school teachers are new hires this year. It's important to note that we don't expect any school to experience 100% retention. That's just not realistic, right? So natural attrition is anticipated, especially if you're growing your teachers into leadership roles across the district. And for the current school year, we've hired 203 elementary and middle school teachers to date. We can go to the next slide. So this slide speaks specifically to hiring secondary teachers. On average, 8% of high school teachers are new hires. So this is a total of 111 teachers. Before I move on, I just want to give you just a second to look at this data. We can go to the next slide. So what is OTM doing to recruit teachers? We've developed the Represent HPS campaign as a recruitment strategy. I hope that you guys have seen our marketing across the city. But we want to ensure that we hire robust and qualified workforce that serves and represents our diverse, beautiful, and capable students. And so to recruit and hire exceptional educators to the district, we have to source candidates using various approaches. As I said, there's not a one-size-fits-all. So some of the things that we've done is, you can see on this graphic, we have our Grow Your Own initiative, where some of the things we do is the Relay Graduate School of Education. This is our para pipeline where we're growing our pairs into teachers. We have the Buckley High School Public Service Academy. We also have Hartford Promise. Then when we think about our partner pathways, those in which is the organizations we partner with to help recruit and source talent. We partner with our universities and colleges, our community colleges, the alternative route to certification partnerships, local outreach, and then student teacher early hire program. That's something we implemented this year. So if we see student teachers that are killing it, rocking it out in our classrooms, we're going to offer that we're going to get some feedback about how they did, and we're going to ask that they recommendations be made, and we've hired them early. We've given them the opportunity to secure employment with our district next year. If they're ready to be employed right away, like December grads, then we're hiring them now as well. And then we do local outreach, of course, our recruitment in Connecticut, all over the state, and then our community partnerships. We have employee referrals where we provide incentives and bonuses for folks to refer their friends. Of course, when you're referring someone, that helps with fit because you know the context of the work you do, and then you know who you're referring. So that fit is kind of built into that referral. And then, of course, we have sign-on bonuses and in-state career fairs. And then recruitment beyond Connecticut, our national and international outreach. I'm sure our board members hopefully have some insight into some of these programs. So we've done digital outreach and social media marketing. Our campaign with Adams and Knight has been very successful. We're connecting with HBCUs. We have regional enhanced reciprocity that we've tapped into. And of course, the Apostle program that continues to yield great results for us. And then this year, the Caribbean Connection, where we're recruiting international folks. You can go to the next slide. So when we think about diversifying our talent pipeline, OTM has like a laser-like focus on making sure that we can increase our professionals of color, given the demographics that we serve here in the district. So we've been committed to recruiting a diverse team of talented educators, and those efforts have been incorporated in every aspect of our recruitment strategies. We appreciate the teachers and administrators who share similar backgrounds and experiences with our students are positioned to leave a lasting impression as prominent role models and bring an important perspective to our district that enhances cultural competency. We believe our children are best served by a team of individuals who work and live in our neighborhoods and are representative of the global community for which our students are being prepared. We strive to have the Hartford Public Schools team reflect the different perspectives of our families and community so that we can work together to break down barriers, close the achievement gap, and prepare our students for success in college and beyond. So what have some of our strategies yielded us? Here are our results for the past 5 years. So these are first-year HPS teachers in the district. So that means they could be veteran teachers, but they taught somewhere else. They are first-time teachers in HPS. And so when we think about our recruitment numbers here, this is not recruitment, I'm sorry, this is actually our hiring number. This is really good. I mean, when we think about how we are outperforming the state in this way, outperforming surrounding districts, I think it's important to note that our strategies are paying off. When we say we want to diversify we are very bold in our language. We're very bold in our marketing and our visuals. We are unapologetic about wanting to diversify our talent pipelines. And because of that, you can see the results that we're getting here. So some of the work that OTM has led to increase our diversity includes collaboration with higher education partners to increase early urban field exposure. We've coordinated with Black and Latinx fraternities and sororities for Hartford-specific minority teacher recruitment events. We've also reached into our own organization, and when we go out to events, we we ask people to tag along who represent the district and can speak to their experience from the lens of a person of color. And so we, additionally, with Connecticut's enhanced reciprocity, we have been able to expand our recruiting efforts to areas that were historically not as easily accessible because of Connecticut's stringent certification requirements. So we've definitely taken advantage of that. I want to mention that we began to explore a premier partnership with Morgan State University that we're really excited about in terms of creating a destination district here in Hartford. The premise of this program is to provide an opportunity for our students who graduate from Buckley High School public service pathway educator prep program to either enroll in Morgan State directly after high school graduation or attend a partner community program for 2 years and then seamlessly enroll in Morgan State to earn a degree to become a certified teacher in Hartford. Along their journey, HPS will provide opportunities for mentorship, paid opportunities to work with HPS students, and guarantee employment after graduation. That is what's really important to note. So we're looking at the talent, the young talent that we have in our district that's already a part of one of our high school pathways and determining like how can we create a really sustainable partnership with an HBCU that trains up our students, gives them a great experience, and then we keep like our finger on the pulse of how they're doing, and we bring them back into our community. And along the way, across those 4 years, giving them multiple opportunities to access the professional space in Hartford Public Schools. We can go to the next slide. Superintendent, before we talk about the employee engagement, do you think this is a natural space to take a break if anyone has questions about the data?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, can we go to the view where we can see everyone? Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Chief Curtis, your last slide. I'm glad that we get more persons of color identified. I think the interest though is really breaking down Black African Americans, Caribbeans. I think we really should see how many teachers are in those actual buckets. Persons of color now have become somewhat controversial because it's just a broad category, and we do need all that diversity. Anecdotally, what still seems to happen is that children in Hartford can go a significant amount of their school career in Hartford and not have a Black teacher. And so I'm thinking we should really start to really tackle that someone wants to see a Black teacher or Caribbean teacher, someone who really looks like them. And so I think we should track it. So that data would be great to add to what you were presenting.
Thank you. We can definitely disaggregate the data that way.
Thank you. Ms. Brody.
Hi. For it was like maybe a slide ago, are there any like real, because this is my first time seeing the presentation, so because it wasn't available earlier, so I can't ask, as I'm seeing it, I'm trying to come up with my questions on the spot, but are we able to get the data behind those initiatives that was listed? Like if we have the Buckley teacher prep, we have Hartford Promise, like in those categories, can we get some real data on those things?
Just clarifying question as to,
Mhm.
Dr. Curtis, you had a clarifying question?
But I think you might be asking it. I was gonna. My clarifying question was: are you looking for yield? Like how? Okay. How many teachers have those programs yielded?
Because in all the things that you listed that we do, I'm trying to thinking in my mind, where are we in those endeavors? And so when this comes up again and we're talking about talent and recruitment and retention again, we'll have something to measure it to. Like I don't have any numbers like first year at Morgan State, we're engaging 4 students, and I don't have anything to grab onto to measure.
Thank you for that statement. I will say one of our most developed pipelines or initiative is our Relay Graduate School of Education, our para pipeline, where we can say like, this is how many folks have been in the pipeline every year. This is how many have become teachers. This is how many have been successful. This has been the cost to the district to support this initiative. That is one of our most developed initiatives so far, right? And so given the success of that initiative, we're trying to model some of our other initiatives off of that. But the ones that are fully developed, we can definitely provide more detailed data on yield.
Through you, Ms. Oliver, a clarifying question for Ms. Brody. And my interpretation, in addition to what Dr. Curtis said, was whether or not you were looking for data as to participants that, perhaps have not yet gone into enroll in a teacher prep program because there are seniors in high school, right, as part of the public service pathway. And so just wanted to clarify whether or not that's also what you were thinking. And if it wasn't, then kind of disregard what I was thinking.
Ms. Brody?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. I heard part of what the superintendent said. So if she could repeat that, I severely apologize.
Yes,
I know she said, I heard what you said, but I didn't hear the question that was asked after that.
Yeah, and how I interpreted your question, in addition to how Dr. Curtis interpreted, was on the front end, if you will, as to participants currently in some of those strategies that haven't yet transitioned into teacher prep programs because right, we haven't yet fully developed the program, like how many juniors we have or that signed on to that that pathway, for example. How many partnerships do we have with X amount of colleges and universities that partner with us for their student teaching? So I was just wanted to clarify whether that's what you also were thinking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, you got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend A.J. Johnson.
Yes. Well, Dr. Curtis, thank you so much for all your hard work. I am someone who is happy that you are here in our district and just really, really am excited about the work that you're doing. As a immediate past president of the Delta Pi Sigma chapter, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and someone who has done a lot of groundwork for the Divine Nine to be organized and just have a presence. While we were in Orlando, I actually had an opportunity to talk to Board Member Brody about this, and this is a real concern. I really heard her passion around this, and really just heard just where her heart and spirit is coming from this, and I fundamentally agree with most of what Board Member Brody has to say on this particular issue. Have we looked into making inroads in terms of local connections, right? I understand if we, go into a college and, trying to recruit, it might be a little better now that UConn has won the championship, right? It might be a little better now to get folks interested in, to have an appetite to come. But people come where their friends are, right? People come where they have a natural connection. Is there an opportunity to maybe create a campaign with the local organizations to help us recruit some of their alumni networks, some of their, educators, right? Like I'm recruiting all the time. I'm trying to take folks from all other districts that are, that are Zetas and trying to send them your way because they're qualified, they have the experience, and they're somewhat local. They may live in the surrounding area, but they are really Black, young educators that are doing some pretty awesome things. But is there an opportunity to create a local campaign with these organizations? I know Howard has an alumni association. I know Kyle Anderson has, he went to Delaware State. He might have some real inroads. But the point being that people go where they have connection and value, can be valued as well. So is there an opportunity to do that with these local organizations?
Thank you for that question. So you're making me think about two different responses. So I'm gonna start with the local response. So when you say people go where they have friends, I'm thinking about like this type of affinity space, affinity grouping, right? Affinity networking. So locally, yes, there is an opportunity, and we do have the bandwidth to organize around that type of affinity, right? So where we have sorority and fraternity relationships within the district and in the surrounding community, how can we leverage that to say, hey, how can we get local friends and frats to come on into our organization, right? That is an easier lift because you mentioned that these people are probably already working, they're in the profession. So it's a easier lift because they just have to get licensed in Connecticut, or they might already be in Connecticut, so they're just switching districts, right? It's more challenging when we think about how do we leverage those relationships to go directly to the universities, right? The historically Black colleges and universities, because this is what we know, and this is what we've experienced, is that there's a cost associated with going to recruit on the college campuses, any college campus we go to, right? But what we do know is that to try to get a young African-American Black college student who is interested in being a teacher to fly over multiple states to come to Connecticut, like they're literally passing over many districts, right, to land in Connecticut, then to go through the licensing here, and quite possibly, unfortunately, at this time, probably be paid less than what they would be if they were to stay locally and teach. So those are some of the barriers or challenges that we have been thinking through as we try to develop relationships with HBCUs and I want to say, when I say this comment, I'm going to explain it, that makes sense. And when I mean makes sense, like financially, that will present a yield that we can guarantee. Like we don't spend a whole bunch of money and all we have is presence, right? But we don't have any tangible outcome. So we're really trying to think about how can we build relationships, quite possibly one relationship with one HBCU that we can take a kid from graduation from our district all the way through post-secondary, bring them back with all of that knowledge to serve in our community. So we are thinking about how to strategically engage HBCUs in a way that provide a yield. However, I do like your suggestion around affinity spaces and the local context of tapping into that resource. Not something that we've been talking about in OTM, but we can start that conversation.
Thank you.
I just want to check in with my other colleagues, Ms. Darrell Ledger and also Ms. Escribano. Any questions?
No questions on my end. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chair Oliver. I have a question. I have two questions, actually. Well, one, I'd like to piggyback off of what board member, Lord have mercy, Pastor AJ said. I'm a bit distracted as well. I have a little one who's not feeling too well. But the thing is, I would like to also see, with regards to um, other organizations and how we can do some recruiting and partner with organizations in the community. But one question that I really do have is with regards to this, the minority teacher recruitment, do you have Montessori in mind? Are you going to be putting that energy with regards to recruiting for Black Montessori teachers as well? Have you thought about that?
We've definitely talked about it because I do come back to my team and I do mention that you are a zealot around, Montessori staffing and recruitment, which I can really appreciate because it keeps our lens focused there. So I can't say that we've specifically targeted people of color because the Montessori certification is just difficult in and of itself. So what we've done in OTM is we've supported specifically this year, paraeducators getting the certification so that they can have some consistency, continuity, retention of staff members in the Montessori space. And I cannot tell you if the professionals we supported so far have been professionals of color, but I can get that information. So I would say more broadly, we are supporting the Montessori profile of school in terms of trying to find folks to fit into that certification type.
Okay, thank you so much. And the other question I have is, have you explored or thought about, I know that you're talking about, checking in with these college students when they're at Morgan State, but is there any, is anyone going to be like assigned to them, so to speak, like to kind of mentor them on their track? Because students tend to, get distracted or discouraged from, being far away from home, or, the different types of social interactions and peer pressure and such. So is there going to be some type of support for these students that you decide to keep, who decide to take advantage of this program?
So this initiative is literally in the infantile stages, right? We are literally developing it now. As we build out the prospect of this partnership, we definitely are going to tap into, because that is a pathway in our schools, right? We're going to tap into what students say they need to be successful as well, right? So as we build out this program, I mentioned before that we would want to have mentorship and scholarship and things like that available to these students, but definitely in the ways that resonate with them as young people who are away from home and needing to stay connected to their community, and definitely linked to the outcomes that we desire, which is them returning. So built into our initiative is this level of mentorship and support so that we can have a consistent eye on the success of these students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bello.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see everybody here today. So I'm sorry, I'm just sort of wrapping my head around this. I love the efforts and the explicit naming of the recruitment of Black teachers. I want to be explicit in asking sort of what the efforts are to also reach out to Hispanic serving institutions. And I want to just kind of also touch base on, so that's one question, but I also want to sort of emphasize that there's a lot of attrition for Latino students to even get to college. And I know we're not here to address pipelines across the nation, but I feel like this is a vicious cycle. And if we're being explicit and bold and unapologetic about recruiting Black teachers, absolutely, 100%. I want to be just as bold and vocal and on the record and unapologetic about looking for our nationwide friends who are producing also Latino students. Latino teachers. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the other side of
Yeah.
the equation that are in our schools.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that statement and that question. So what we have done is all of our marketing includes Black people and Hispanic, Latinx, right? So we were very, very aware that we needed to represent the whole spectrum of people of color, right? When we did our marketing campaign, we did advertisement on Spanish speaking radio stations as well. So we did advertisement in English and we did advertisement in Spanish, right? So also highly successful Paso a Paso program, right? That continues to yield very culturally competent, aware, and connected professionals. So I believe that where we have not been as boldly stating this is our recruitment effort, we have, I believe, really solidified some of those pipelines to be successful in terms of Paso a Paso and making sure that all of our marketing material represents the whole spectrum of people of color, right? I have to go back though and look at, because in our marketing, we meet with Adams and Knight every week and we talk about where we're going to spend our time and spend our money, right? Like what areas that we're going to be in. Now it's, you know, it's not coming to me because it's been a year. We haven't started that level of marketing yet. But I want to say we look at all of the activities that are going on in the communities, and then we geofence around those activities, right? So we want to see where Hispanic folks are, and then we're going to geofence around them, and then push all of our advertisement out to them. Then we're going to look at where Black people are. We're going to push out to them. So that's how we did it last year to make sure that we captured very specific audiences. So we wanted to see where were the community events that were happening that were significantly targeted to a specific population. And if it was our population, then we geofence there.
But just to be clear, we're geofencing our community to source teachers. And I don't think that's I don't think we're producing teachers. So I worry about that strategy, just geofencing around. I get that strategy when we're asking for enrollment, when we're pushing, you know, community services. But I'm actually asking, maybe I'll be more clear. I'm asking for us to look across the nation to colleges and universities and do the same legwork we're doing to boost our numbers for Black teachers, Caribbean teachers, and I'm going to be explicit again and say Latino teachers. I don't know. My screen just changed, so I'm sorry if I'm looking like crazy right now. But that's what I would like to see. You know, Arizona State University, you know, SoCal, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, even CUNY, right next door to us, are producing amazing professionals. I'd love that recruitment to be outside of our city. I mean, frankly, we're in a vicious cycle that I see, right? Our school system has failed generations, right? And we're really struggling to close this gap within this administration. But we have years to see that that productivity and those results. So I'm sort of putting it out there as a shared issue, a shared problem across racial lines that it's extremely important to name.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Brody, and then Mr. Walker.
I just wanted to help Dr. Curtis out with the Montessori teacher, like the the teacher assistant that goes on to like be a certified teacher. There is one Black male at Annie Fisher Montessori. So I wanted to help you out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Hey, Chief Curtis, I'm going to advocate really leaning much more aggressively in and really leveraging local organizations. And it's because I'm a proud grad of Howard University, and I agree with you. This national search model for Black teachers is going to be a struggle. I agree with Board Member Bello. You can do the same with Hispanic serving institutions. It's going to be a challenge. Teaching recruitment, I think, is regional. And so I am believing that one of our ways forward is to build a bench, local and regional. What we can know, I can find out what students from Connecticut are going to Howard. I mean, we're going to have to do more targeting of who regionally is going to college. Those are people much more likely to come back here. You're going to struggle to get someone from Florida going to Howard to say, come to Connecticut and work. So right now, I'm looking at Harvard Public Schools, where all our Future Teacher of America organizations at the high school, middle school level. I think we can do a lot more to actually begin to build excitement for teaching among students. So we can begin to build a bench of students who actually may think, okay, I'm gonna go to school and be a teacher and likely come back here. And I'm just saying, I know that you're focusing on 12-month recruitment, and I know you got to make it, but I'm tagging you to also kind of have a 3 to 5 year view and to really lean in it, because to me, there's some low-hanging stuff like Future Teacher of America type groups. I'm making the name up, but certainly we can get our students excited about that and try to work with the state to try to find monies to encourage people to come here and teach, but more local and regional. I agree with Board Member Bello. Let's go to CUNY. Let's go regionally, because that's where, honestly, we're more likely to actually convince somebody to come here. And so I'm just really encouraging you. And that's where I think the comments from Pastor AJ, it's like when fraternities and sororities, they have beats on the families that are sending kids to college here, and they can get you into events where you can begin to kind of promote this to up and coming kids from the region going off to school, and let them know that they should consider us as they're making decisions to go off to school. So that's where I'm just saying, really, really lean in, because there are so many folks who I think would like to carry your water and get the message. If you give them the message, give them trained up, let them know what to say. And even when you do recruitment, we can be your back office. If you go to Howard and recruit, we're more than happy if you give us names to pick up the phone, give them a call, pick up that student, invite them to the area, let them know when they come to the area, they got people, they got organizations and folks who want to kind of have their back. There are lots of ways you can use this, but please lean in and use this and help build that bench regionally and locally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I want to plus one what you said and so many others. This is a workforce development issue. Appreciate the willingness to make sure it's multi-pronged, multi-level, and really thinking outside of the box, and looking forward to seeing some of the data, but also other ideas that you may have and ways to leverage us all here as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and push us forward to our next section, which I believe is the employee engagement section. So again, Superintendent and Dr. Curtis.
Thank you. So this is, I'm going to review with you our employee engagement survey results. So you may know that we sent out an employee engagement survey. And in working with our third-party vendor, our partner, New Measures, one of the things that we did was we branded the survey. So whenever someone sees this logo that you see right here on the screen, they kind of know if the information they're receiving is associated with the employee survey, and we kind of branded it employee listening, right? So we want our educators to really believe that when we ask for their input, we're going to listen and we're going to figure out the best ways to respond so they feel like they've been heard. We can go to the next slide. So what is employee engagement? This is what we learned, OTM learned, and Cabinet was engaged in this as well. This is what we learned about employee engagement, that A feeling of commitment and enthusiasm for one's work that leads to a willingness to exert discretionary effort. When people feel like they are engaged in the work, they stay and they recommend others to the organization, right? We're talking about retention. That's important. They feel valued and they're enthusiastic about their work. People who are enthusiastic, they actually want to come to work. And then they believe in the future of the organization. So they believe that their contribution is meaningful for the success of that organization. And here's the impact that engaged employees have on an organization. More broadly, not just a organization of learners like ours, but just organizations in general. There's 37% lower absenteeism when you have engaged employees. There's 25% lower turnover. There's 48% fewer safety incidences. So it's a safer environment. 10% higher customer metrics. That means that thing that you're supposed to be doing, that employees, that customers come to you for, like, you're actually doing that thing. 21% higher productivity and 22% higher profitability. When we equate like that profitability and productivity to the context of public school settings, that means that our employees engaged, our students are learning, our parents are happy, our attendance rates increase, right? So those are some of the things that we can look forward to when we have a highly engaged employee workforce. We can go to the next slide. So we want to start with the end in mind. So over time, we want to increase our employee engagement rates, but we had to start with a baseline. So when we gave our survey, this is the baseline that we got. 56% of the employees who participated in this survey report some level of engagement. So we would say 56% of the staff who took the survey are engaged. And then here are the measures that the questions that we asked and to get to this engagement index. I want to note that when you look at the green, that's an indication of folks being highly engaged. When you look at the yellow, that is an opportunity for us to lean in and grow folks, because they're kind of on the fence, right? They're not highly engaged, but they haven't tapped out either, right? So we have an opportunity there. And then we look at the red. This is the area that we want to move folks out of, right? Because this is an indication that they're actually not engaged. So when we think about the first question, most of the time I am enthusiastic about my job and the work that I do. Of the over 1,500 folks that responded, 74% of them agree that they're enthusiastic about the job that they do. That's really good news for the district. But we still have a 14% area that we can work on, right? That we can get folks more enthusiastic about their work. So here are the questions that led to, and of course, behind these questions were several other questions, but these are the questions that got us to the 56% index rate of highly engaged. So when we give the survey again, we want to make sure that this 56% increases. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that employees believe what they told us was responded to. So now we're going to move to the next slide, and we're going to talk about our key takeaways. So this is what we learned from the survey. We have some strengths and we have some opportunities for growth. And I'll just give you a second just to read through this slide. I'll voice over a little bit for folks who maybe cannot look at the screen. But in general, folks, they say they have clear expectations and are generally enthusiastic about the work that they do, and they value the impact they have on students. That's exciting for us. Our students and the opportunity to make a difference are the top 2 reasons people intend to stay in Hartford Public Schools. We got survey data back that indicated that employees believe that the district values diversity, and employees feel respected by principals and their supervisors. And in general, employees trust one another and work towards a common goal and value the relationships they have with one another. So when we think about opportunities, opportunities that emerged from the survey. We learned that there's a perception of fair and equitable promotional opportunities and salary. So we might have to do some clear up how people understand how promotions and salary increases work in the district. Opportunities to grow and adequate support for school districts and departments from the district, so additional staffing and support for teachers, peer educators, etc. So we know that we're talking about staffing and attrition, and so we know that there has been a great resignation, and we've had several openings, so we can understand how folks feel like additional staffing could be a concern. But when we think about adequate support, this is an area that we may want to lean into, because we might want to say, like, what is the perception of adequate support? What does that actually look like for individuals to feel like they're being supported? And then, of course, compensation and benefits, lack of work-life balance, that came out. And then this idea of more consistent and transparent two-way communication. And then a low favorability scores around recommending the district to a parent for their own child. So here are some of the takeaways that we got from the survey. Now we're going to talk about what we did with this high overarching data. We can go to the next slide. Again, you'll see our branding logo there in the corner. We sent out to everyone in the district, not just the folks who took the survey, but everyone in the district received these results. And we talked about the overall participation. We let people know how many folks took the survey, and then where our strengths are and our opportunities for growth are. We wanted to be very transparent around that. So we highlighted as opportunities for growth. We wanted to make sure that when we publicly announced our growth opportunities, that they were areas that we were committed to leaning into. So we elevated the ones that we said, what can we do about these things if given more input from our educators in our district? So the three that we lifted were the district provides adequate support for my school or department. Only 35% felt like there is adequate support. So we want to learn more about that. What does adequate support mean in the context of your specific work? And then I'm able to maintain a healthy balance between my work life and my home life. Only 48% favorability there. So we want to lean into what does work-life balance look like. And then this idea of open and honest two-way communication at the school and the department. We want to hear more about what constitutes transparent, open, two-way communication for you. We don't want to make assumptions here, right? So this is what we developed as next steps. We said we're going to host optional town halls virtually and in person. There are these community conversations that we're hosting to deepen our understanding of what adequate support, work-life balance, and two-way communication can look and feel like for HPS employees. So far, we've hosted two. One was tonight at a school. The one prior to that was for central office. And I want to note that we trained, I want to keep me honest here, 13 facilitators, and the facilitators of these community conversations are representative of roles across the entire district. And then what we're committed to is collaboratively developing and communicating two statements of our values and expectations to articulate our organizational-wide commitments for healthy work-life balance and best practice for fostering open and honest two-way communication at all levels of our organization. So on the other side of these community conversations, we will say, given your feedback, this is what we plan to do. And I want to also state that in these community conversations, they are designed to allow the participants to action plan around these three items. So the participants are saying, this is what the district should do, this is what my department or my school can do, and this is what I can do, right? So we're action planning on three different levels. We'll get all that data back, and then we'll share it out, and we'll have a better idea of how to respond in a way where our employees really believe that their voice is heard. And ultimately, all of this is to increase employee engagement, which leads to, hopefully, we believe, increased retention. And we can go to the next slide. And questions about the survey. I know that it's 6:28, superintendent, so I just want to be mindful of time.
Superintendent, is there another section after the employee? Okay.
No, there's time for questions.
I'm done sitting, as you can hear right now. Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Ms. Daracel Ledger.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. Just one quick question. So with regards to the survey, this survey was anonymous, I'm hoping?
Yes. We used a third-party partner, New Measures. We sent it out through Qualtrics, and we got the results back filtered through our partner and presented to us. We cannot make any correlation between any comment or outcome of the survey to a participant.
Thank you. And how many, are you aware of how many staff did not participate or did not take the survey?
Yeah, let me get my math right here. 57% did not. So there was a 43% participation rate, and that was across like everyone in the entire district. So that was 1,529 responses. We were hoping to get 50%. We were really hoping for 50%, but we were pleased with 43%, given this was an opportunity for employees to really voice things that they hadn't necessarily been asked to voice before.
Bless you, even though you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just want to put this out there that it's possible that for whatever reason that staff did not feel or employees did not feel comfortable participating, and you did not have even 50%. That sends a message as well. So that's something that I believe needs to really be looked at, and perhaps a follow-up survey or something, or a conversation, something, but with everyone, and perhaps you may get the why of why folks didn't participate, because that not saying anything will says a lot as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Daracel Ledger, are you still, your hand is still up? Are you all set?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bello.
Thank you. I was just curious if we used our friends at the teachers union to support this, and again, this is a line of communication that can be used. Just wondering if that was done and if that was received wholeheartedly.
Our collaboration with the union, when we received the survey results as part of our HFT leadership update, we met with the union to talk through our initial results and our initial thinking around how we were going to move forward with action planning and with communicating out the results. So before we communicated results out to anyone, of course, we started with cabinet members, HFT leadership. Then we met with HFT leadership to also talk about the community conversation. We've had so many conversations. I'm trying to figure out what the sequential order was. I do know, as of today, the community conversation that happened today, union leadership is at that community conversation today. So also invited them to participate in the action planning process as well, to help get to like what are the best responses to the opportunities for growth. So along the way, we have partnered in ways to put this information in their sightline before it was more broadly communicated.
Thank you, Ms. Brody.
Was the communication with staff before the survey was administered? Like, was there a ramp up that is coming, building leaders, encouraging participation? Did that happen?
Chief Curtis, if you can kind of do the incentives, all that good stuff that went on at the front end.
Yeah, it was a lot. So thank you for that question. Because we wanted to make sure, like, the survey was received with the good intentions, right, that we have for it. We worked with our partner to make sure that the progression of our activities really supported the best possible outcome. So one of the ways yes, we let our school leaders know that there was a survey coming out. We also incentivized the survey every single week. So we went around to community partners and we asked for donations. We had donations from everywhere. And then we used those donations to raffle off gifts every week for folks who took the survey. I think we gave 5 a week, I think. And then we also hand delivered the incentives, right? So whatever it was, someone from OTM actually went down to the school, gave swag, gave the incentive. We really wanted to show a presence of us being really grateful for participation. We also thought that would also encourage other people to, like, if I've received the incentive, I might say to you, hey, look, this is what I got. You should take the survey. It enters you into a raffle, right? So we did that. We extended the survey for a couple of weeks on the back end as well. And we just sent out what we felt like was a lot of encouraging language around wanting to really get critical feedback and insight from our employees. So those are the ways in which we incentivize all along the way. We have multiple touch points with folks and conversations, because it did come from OTM. So people did pick up the phone and call and say, like, why should I take this survey? And so we had frank conversations about it. And so they, we're grateful. Thank you for the conversation. I'll think about it. And so every week we figured out a way to try to get more and more people to take the survey, because we did know that the higher results that we had in terms of participation, the better data that we would get back to use to help increase retention through employee engagement.
Okay, and then I had another question. As on the slide where it was given the data, it said how many participated? Did it include the data, like the amount of employees in totality, so we could know out of X amount of teachers, this is amount that actually participated?
I'll read it. I'll just read that part. So what it says is, for teachers, it was 914 responses, and then we said that was 57% of teachers participated. So for paraeducators, it was 132 responses, which was 37% of all paraeducators. So that's how we broke it down. So we gave the number and the percentage.
But not the total number of employees per category?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Daracel Ledger.
Yes, thank you. So another question one question in particular. If the surveys were anonymous, then how did you know to give prizes or gifts to those who took them if it was anonymous? Did they just, how do you know that they took them? Did they say that they took the survey? And, like, how did that happen?
Because we have the email, they were sent via board emails, right? So we know who took the survey. We just don't know what their response was in the survey. So we don't have any of their answers, but we know that they used that email address to complete the survey. But then we can't link that email back to their actual responses.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I have is, did you, in the survey, does the participant have to, or, are they asked the question of race, gender, things like that?
Yes, gender, because we have some demographics that were broken down by gender. No, maybe I have to look at that. I have to look at, and I'm sorry, the person that helped facilitate the survey from OTM is not on the call, so I have to get that information back to you. I'm sorry that I don't know that.
That's okay. The reason I'm asking that question is because, even though a survey, may be quote unquote anonymous, by the disclosure of race, gender, specifics, particulars, you can kind of, to a certain degree, kind of figure out who took the certain, not in everything, but in certain circumstances, you can kind of figure it out. So it's just something to think about. So it's possible that, and I'd also like to see if race is something that was asked, how many African American folks participated in the survey, which with regards to educators.
Thank you. I'll have to get that data.
Thank you. Ms. Escorbano.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I had a similar question as my colleague. Very quick. Mine was more so towards like if you're asking questions like what department they work in. So if it's a social studies department or a music department, how long they've been in that school. So I feel like that would narrow down how to identify that teacher, right? So if they're the only music teacher in SMSA, just as an example, obviously you're going to know who said what they said, right? So just putting that out there also, like some of those identifiable questions will make it, in my opinion, challenging for maybe some teachers to be as honest as possible because they may be afraid, right? I don't want to speak for them. I'm not a teacher, but I'm just thinking of how some of those other identifiables can, raise some concerns.
I appreciate that. I do want to note that when we provide the file to create the when we provide the file to create the survey, like who it all goes out to, we already have some identifiers. Like, for example, me, I'm associated with central office, I'm in leadership. Like, there are already some things. But but what happens is when the results come back to us, we don't have access to individual surveys. We have access to information in the aggregate, right? And then we can disaggregate that data down by, say, like age groups, or we can disaggregate it down by school or by central office, but not necessarily, we don't have the individual surveys to look at.
Thank you for that clarification.
Dr. Curtis.
Sorry, Dr. Curtis, I just sent you the information about the engagement by race and ethnicity on your Slack.
Thank you, you sure did. And so the question was how many, there were 258 responses from employees that identify as Black, and that would have been 60% of the total population of employees who identify as Black.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
go
so
ahead. Ms. Darcel Ledger, you have a follow-up?
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. So these were teachers, or this was all staff,
All
or all
staff,
employees?
all employees.
Okay, but you don't have the information with regards to teachers, how many African American teachers actually took the survey?
We do not have it disaggregated by job class and race. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I want to check in with Mr. Walker and also Mrs. Bello. Any questions?
Yeah, well, maybe a comment. I think I mentioned to the superintendent that I strongly advocate for surveying moving forward being done by third party and just taken out of the leadership's hand. Chief Curtis, your response just a minute ago is one of the reasons why. If a third party could do it, they could do the disaggregation. They could really get into the weeds because they can get into stuff because the third party, they can really get into it because you need to know it. But as leadership, you can't. And so someone should have that information. I think it'd be better if a third party did it. And that's going to be a comment. If the interest is really getting unbiased, no fear of retaliation, they won't ever know who you are. If you're interested in getting real feedback, I think it's worth spending the money to have a third party do it and really push then getting a lot of participation and a lot of honest feedback. Okay.
I apologize that I may not have been very clear in the beginning. We used a third-party partner called New Measures, and they helped develop the survey in collaboration with OTM leadership. And they developed the survey. We pushed the survey out through Qualtrics, which is a system that the district uses. But all of the data in the aggregate and disaggregated was done by the third party. So it was given to us. So when I just read data to you about the demographics of people of color, that was from a slide that was provided to us. So they disaggregated the data for us. Our third party partner, New Measures.
Then it is disappointing they wouldn't have that data. How would they not have that data? I would agree that they need to, then you need to be pressing them to have that kind of data. It should be broken by teacher and a lot of different dimensions.
Yes, I'm sorry if I'm not being clear. We have several. I didn't want to bombard the board with all of our data slides.
Nope, don't decide. Give us the data. We
Okay.
can digest it outside this presentation, but
yeah,
you people really need to see the data. And
so we do have to disaggregate it by teacher.
if you're doing third party, it really needs to be emphasized, because I was telling the superintendent I've heard too many anecdotal concerns that people have about being found out or some kind of retaliation. And if there's no possibility of that, then please promote that to people. Really have them understand that it's third party. You don't see it needs to be emphasized, because to me, we should really put to bed the idea that somehow there's some kind of retaliation or people will be found out if that's not true. I mean, I'm really being serious that we market for everything else. Let's really communicate and over communicate, because to me, the board member, I just shouldn't be hearing that people have some fear of retaliation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mrs. Bello, any questions? Okay, with that, I think we've completed our questions. I have no questions. And that brings us to the end of our workshop. Anyone, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? We are now adjourned. Thank you very much for attending this evening's workshop meeting. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.